The golden cage Victoria Hartwell stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her Manhattan penthouse, her hand resting gently on her 6-month pregnant belly as she watched the city pulse with life 40 stories below. The morning sun cast golden streaks across the marble floors, illuminating a space that most would consider paradise. Designer furniture, original artwork, and every luxury money could buy surrounded her. Yet she felt like a bird in the world's most beautiful cage. The sound of Marcus's shower running echoed from their master suite. Soon he would emerge, impeccably dressed in one of his custom Armani suits, kiss her forehead with practiced affection, and disappear into his world of venture capital deals and power lunches, a world where she existed only as his beautiful pregnant wife, the perfect accessory to his carefully curated life. If only he knew the truth. Victoria picked up her laptop from the marble coffee table, her fingers moving swiftly across the keyboard. The screen filled with financial reports, investment portfolios, and acquisition documents, all bearing the signature of VH Enterprises, a mysterious conglomerate that had been quietly purchasing struggling tech startups and transforming them into industry leaders. Marcus had no idea that his demure wife, who spent her days supposedly shopping and attending charity luncheons, was actually the mastermind behind a business empire worth over $200 million. He saw her trust fund and assumed that was the extent of her financial acumen. He never questioned where she went during her long afternoons or why she received so many doctor's appointments. The irony wasn't lost on her. While Marcus pontificated at dinner parties about the venture capital industry, Victoria was actually living it, investing her inheritance with surgical precision, building companies from the ground up, and creating jobs for hundreds of people, all under shell companies and pseudonyms that kept her real identity hidden. Her phone buzzed with a notification from her banking app. Victoria frowned as she saw an unusual charge on Marcus's credit card, a charge she monitored not out of distrust, but because she managed all their household finances. $25,000 at Cartier yesterday afternoon. Strange, considering he hadn't given her any jewelry recently, and their anniversary wasn't for months. Victoria's analytical mind, the same one that could spot promising startups before anyone else, began connecting dots. The late nights at the office, the new cologne, the way he'd started going to the gym religiously, the mysterious phone calls he took in his study with the door closed. She opened another app, one that tracked their shared credit cards in real time. The pattern became clear. Expensive dinners at restaurants they'd never been to together, charges at boutique hotels across the city, florists, jewelry stores. All on days when he'd told her he was in back-to-back meetings. Marcus was having an affair. Victoria felt a cold calm settle over her, the same emotional stillness that served her well in business negotiations. She wasn't surprised, not really. Their marriage had become a performance, two actors playing roles that no longer fit. But the timing, while she was pregnant with their child, that stung. The shower turned off. Victoria quickly closed her laptop and picked up a pregnancy magazine, arranging herself on the sofa in the pose of a woman whose biggest concern was choosing between organic cotton and bamboo fiber for the nursery. Marcus emerged, cologne wafting around him like expensive armor. He kissed her forehead as predicted, his attention already elsewhere. "Big day today," he announced, adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror. "The Tech Summit Planning Committee meeting. I'm finalizing my keynote speech." Victoria smiled serenely. "That's wonderful, darling. I'm sure you'll be brilliant." As the door closed behind him, Victoria's smile faded. She reopened her laptop and began typing, but this time she wasn't reviewing investment reports. She was researching the annual Manhattan Tech Summit, the industry's most prestigious event, where Marcus would take the stage in 3 weeks to address the most influential people in Silicon Valley. Perfect timing, she thought, her hand moving to her belly. Her child would be born into a world where their mother wasn't hiding in anyone's shadow. The golden cage was about to become a launching pad. Part 2. The other woman, Jasmine. Chen stared at the rejection email on her laptop screen, her third funding. Denial this week. Her cramped Brooklyn apartment suddenly felt even smaller, the stack of unpaid bills on her coffee table seeming to mock her Stanford MBA and her revolutionary AI algorithm. At 26, she had poured everything into Neural Bridge, her startup that could predict consumer behavior with 92% accuracy. The technology was groundbreaking, but apparently groundbreaking wasn't enough without connections. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Missing you. Dinner at Le Bernardin tonight? 8 p.m.? Jasmine smiled despite her frustration. Marcus Hartwell was her lifeline, the venture capitalist who'd promised to change everything. She'd met him at a tech mixer 6 months ago, where he'd been immediately intrigued by her pitch. More than intrigued, captivated. Within weeks, their professional relationship had become intensely personal. Marcus was everything she'd imagined success looked like. Confident, wealthy, connected. He wore power like a second skin and spoke about million-dollar deals over casual lunches. When he'd whispered that he was considering a major investment in Neural Bridge, Jasmine had felt her dreams finally within reach. She chose her outfit carefully, a sleek black dress that projected both professionalism and allure. Marcus appreciated ambition almost as much as he appreciated beauty, and Jasmine had learned to weaponize both. Tonight, she planned to press him for a decision. Her runway was getting shorter and her patience thinner. Le Bernardin was the kind of restaurant where deals were made and fortunes shifted over wine that cost more than most people's rent. Marcus was already seated at their usual corner table. When she arrived, his silver hair perfectly styled, his smile confident and predatory. "You look stunning," he said, standing to kiss her cheek. The gesture felt possessive, claiming, "Thank you." Jasmine slid into her seat, noting the expensive watch on his wrist, new since their last dinner. "You're looking quite successful yourself." Marcus chuckled, ordering wine without consulting her. "Success is a mindset, darling. Speaking of which, how's the algorithm performing?" Jasmine launched into her prepared presentation, watching his face for signs of genuine interest versus polite attention. "The beta tests exceeded all projections. We're ready for Series A funding, more than ready." "Patience," Marcus said, his hand covering hers across the table. "Good things come to those who wait. I have something bigger in mind for you." The same words he'd been saying for months. Jasmine felt her smile tighten. "Marcus, I need specifics. My burn rate won't sustain much longer without... Trust me." His grip on her hand tightened slightly. "I'm planning something that will put both our names on the map. The Manhattan Tech Summit is in 3 weeks. I'm the keynote speaker." Jasmine knew about the summit. Every tech entrepreneur in the city did. It was invitation only, the kind of event that could make careers overnight. "That's incredible. Will you mention Neural Bridge?" Marcus's smile was enigmatic. "I have plans that go far beyond a simple mention, but I need you to be patient just a little longer." After dinner, they went to his usual suite at the plaza, a standing reservation he maintained for what he called business convenience. As they lay in the Egyptian cotton sheets, Jasmine stared at the ceiling, calculating. Marcus was generous with gifts and experiences, but the promised investment remained elusive. She was beginning to suspect she was being managed rather than courted as a business partner. Her phone lit up with a notification. A LinkedIn message from someone called David Romano, senior partner at VH Enterprises. The message was brief. "Impressive work on behavioral prediction algorithms. Would you be interested in discussing funding opportunities?" Jasmine glanced at Marcus, who was already asleep, his wedding ring glinting in the dim light from the bathroom. She looked closer, her heart stopping. There was definitely a ring, a thin platinum band he'd somehow kept hidden during their months together. Her breath caught. Married. Marcus was married. She slipped out of bed quietly, gathering her clothes with shaking hands. In the bathroom, she Googled Marcus Hartwell wife and found society page photos. Marcus at charity galas with a beautiful brunette, her hand resting on a noticeable pregnant belly in recent photos. Jasmine sat on the cold marble floor, her world reshaping itself. She wasn't the sophisticated entrepreneur being courted by a powerful investor. She was the other woman, being strung along by a married man whose wife was carrying his child. But Marcus didn't know about the message from VH Enterprises. For the first time in months, Jasmine smiled with genuine confidence. If Marcus thought he could play her, he was about to learn that two could play that game. She typed a response to David Romano. Very interested. When can we meet? The perfect storm. David Romano adjusted his tie nervously as he waited in the marble lobby of the Chrysler Building. At 35, he'd been Victoria's business partner for 3 years, the only person who knew the full extent of her empire. He'd watched her build VH Enterprises from nothing, admiring her brilliant mind and strategic thinking. Now he was about to help her execute the most personal deal of her career. The elevator dinged, and Jasmine Chen emerged, her posture radiating the kind of focused intensity David recognized in successful entrepreneurs. She was younger than he'd expected, with sharp eyes that missed nothing as they swept the opulent lobby. "Miss Chen," David extended his hand, "thank you for meeting on such short notice." "Thank you for reaching out," Jasmine replied, her handshake firm. "Though I have to admit, I'm curious why VH Enterprises is interested in Neural Bridge. Your company doesn't usually invest in early-stage AI." David smiled as they walked toward the elevator. "We don't usually do a lot of things. That's what makes us effective." Victoria's offices occupied the entire 42nd floor, a testament to the success she'd built in secret. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of Manhattan, while the interior was designed for both comfort and intimidation. White leather furniture, abstract art, and technology so advanced it seemed to operate by thought alone. "Impressive," Jasmine murmured, taking in the space. "Her founder believes in creating environments that inspire excellence," David said, guiding her to a conference room where Victoria was waiting. Jasmine stopped short when she saw her. The woman seated at the head of the polished table was stunning. In an understated way, her dark hair pulled back in an elegant chignon, her pregnancy evident beneath her expertly tailored blazer. But it was her eyes that commanded attention, intelligent, calculating, and familiar in a way that made Jasmine's pulse quicken. "Ms. Chen," Victoria rose gracefully, extending her hand. "I'm Victoria Hartwell, founder and CEO of VH Enterprises." The name hit Jasmine like a physical blow. Hartwell, as in Marcus Hartwell, as in the wife whose existence had shattered her world 3 days ago. Victoria watched the recognition dawn on Jasmine's face with professional detachment. "Please sit down, we have a great deal to discuss." Jasmine remained standing, her mind racing. "You're Marcus's wife." "I am." Victoria's voice was steady, revealing nothing. "I'm also a businesswoman who's reviewed your work and finds it exceptional. The question is whether you can separate personal complications from professional opportunities." The audacity was breathtaking. Jasmine felt a laugh bubble up from somewhere dark and bitter. "You want to invest in my company while your husband is sleeping with me?" "I want to invest in your company because it's brilliant," Victoria corrected. "What my husband does in his spare time is irrelevant to your algorithm's potential to revolutionize predictive analytics." David cleared his throat. "Perhaps I should explain the situation." "I can explain myself," Victoria said smoothly. "Ms. Chen, you've been seeking funding for 8 months. You've been turned down by 17 different firms, not because your technology isn't revolutionary, but because you lack the connections to get in front of the right people. My husband promised you access to those connections, but what he actually provided was a hotel suite and empty promises. Jasmine sank into the chair across from Victoria, her anger giving way to curiosity. What are you proposing? Victoria slid a tablet across the table. 5 million in Series A funding, immediate access to beta testing partnerships with our portfolio companies, and a board seat, in exchange for 25% equity and one small favor. Jasmine scanned the contract, her eyes widening at the terms. They were more favorable than anything she'd dared hope for. What's the favor? The Manhattan Tech Summit is in 2 weeks. My husband will be delivering the keynote address, where he plans to announce his discovery of a promising new AI startup. Victoria's smile was sharp as surgical steel. I'd like you to be there when he does, as his surprise guest, as my business partner, Victoria corrected. You see, VH Enterprises will be revealed as the summit's lead sponsor, and I'll be making an announcement of my own about our new AI acquisition. David leaned forward. The tech press has been trying to identify VH Enterprises' mysterious founder for months. The reveal will be front-page news. Jasmine looked between them, beginning to understand the scope of what Victoria was planning. You're going to expose him in front of the entire industry. I'm going to reveal the truth, Victoria said, about who I am, what I've built, and who deserves credit for. Recognizing your potential. The question is whether you're interested in being part of that truth, or whether you'd prefer to keep waiting for promises that will never materialize. Jasmine thought about the rejection letters, the sleepless nights wondering if she'd ever find funding, the humiliation of discovering she was just another married man's midlife crisis. Then she looked at the contract again. Real money, real partnership, real respect. She picked up the pen David offered. Where do I sign? Victoria's smile was genuine for the first time since Jasmine had walked in. Welcome to VH Enterprises. Ms. Chen, let's build something extraordinary. As Jasmine signed her name, she felt the last few months of deception falling away. She wasn't the other woman anymore. She was about to become something much more powerful, the architect of Marcus Hartwell's very public downfall. Part 4. The Revelation. The Manhattan Tech Summit had transformed the Javits Center into a cathedral of innovation. Thousands of entrepreneurs, investors, and tech visionaries filled the cavernous space, their conversations creating a buzz of anticipation. Giant screens displayed the logos of sponsoring companies, but the largest and most prominent bore a simple inscription, VH Enterprises, Innovating Tomorrow. Rebecca Santos, tech journalist for Forbes, navigated through the crowd with predatory focus. For months, she'd been investigating the mysterious company that had quietly acquired some of Silicon Valley's most promising startups. Her sources had promised her the story would break today, and Rebecca could smell the exclusive that would define her career. Backstage, Marcus Hartwell paced in his private green room, reviewing his keynote notes. His speech was designed to cement his reputation as a visionary investor, complete with the surprise announcement of his discovery of Neural Bridge. He'd crafted the narrative carefully, the brilliant young entrepreneur he'd mentored, the revolutionary technology he'd recognized before anyone else. His phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. Break a leg today. Can't wait to see your big moment. Marcus smiled, straightening his tie. Everything was falling into place, perfectly. 3 floors up, in a private hospitality suite, Victoria sat calmly as her styling team made final adjustments. She'd chosen her outfit with the same strategic precision she applied to every business decision. A midnight blue dress that accommodated her pregnancy while projecting unmistakable authority. paired with the diamond earrings that had been her grandmother's, a reminder of the Hartwell family legacy she was about to reclaim. David Romano entered, tablet in hand. The tech press is buzzing about VH Enterprises. Rebecca Santos has been asking questions all morning. Good, Victoria said, accepting a glass of sparkling water. Is Jasmine ready? She's in position backstage. The AV team has her presentation loaded and ready. Victoria nodded, placing her hand on her belly as the baby stirred. Then let's give them a show they'll never forget. The main auditorium fell silent as Marcus took the stage to thunderous applause. He commanded the space with practiced ease, his presence magnetic as he spoke about the future of venture capital and the importance of recognizing untapped potential. Innovation, he declared, his voice carrying to the furthest reaches of the arena, requires vision. It requires the ability to see diamonds in the rough, to identify the next breakthrough before the market catches up. Victoria watched from the wings, her expression serene. Beside her, Jasmine checked her phone nervously. Which brings me to an exciting announcement, Marcus continued. 6 months ago, I discovered a revolutionary AI company that will transform how we understand consumer behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce Neural Bridge and its founder, Jasmine Chen. Jasmine walked onto the stage, her smile bright and confident. The audience applauded politely as she began her presentation, her algorithm's capabilities drawing appreciative murmurs from the crowd. Marcus stood beside her, the picture of a successful mentor supporting his protégé. Thank you, Marcus, for believing in me from the beginning, Jasmine said as her presentation concluded. Of course, I should also thank my actual investor, the company that provided real funding and real support when I needed it most. Marcus's confident smile flickered. This wasn't in the script. Ladies and gentlemen, Jasmine continued, I'm proud to announce that Neural Bridge is now part of the VH Enterprises family, under the leadership of one of the most brilliant business minds I've ever encountered. The giant screens around the auditorium lit up with a new image. Victoria's professional headshot alongside the VH Enterprises logo, with text reading, Victoria Hartwell, founder and CEO. As the auditorium emptied behind them, Victoria allowed herself one moment of pure satisfaction. The golden cage had been shattered, and she'd emerged not as a victim, but as exactly what she'd always been, a force to be reckoned with. New beginnings. 3 months after the Manhattan Tech Summit, Victoria sat in the sunny nursery of her new penthouse apartment, gently rocking her 3-week-old son, James. The space was a study in understated luxury, soft greys and whites, custom furniture, and a wall of windows overlooking Central Park. It was peaceful in a way her old life had never been, filled with the quiet satisfaction of authenticity. Thomas Way, her divorce attorney and longtime friend, reviewed the final papers at the small desk by the window. At 42, Thomas had built his reputation representing high-net-worth individuals in complex divorces, but Victoria's case had been refreshingly straightforward. The settlement is finalized, Thomas announced, removing his reading glasses. Your prenup held perfectly. Marcus keeps his venture capital firm, but he has no claim to VH Enterprises or your trust fund assets. Child support is set, though given your net worth, it's largely symbolic. Victoria smiled down at James, who was sleeping peacefully in her arms. What about his reputation? Still in tatters, Thomas said with obvious satisfaction. 3 more of his portfolio companies have discovered he was taking credit for deals initiated by other investors. The SEC is investigating potential fraud charges. It had been a spectacular fall from grace. The video of Victoria's revelation had gone viral within hours, spawning dozens of think pieces about hidden female entrepreneurs and the venture capital. Old Boys Network. Marcus had tried to salvage his reputation with a series of increasingly desperate interviews, but each appearance only made things worse. Victoria's phone chimed with a video call from Jasmine, whose face appeared on screen from what looked like a bustling office space. "How's the new mom life treating you?" Jasmine asked, her smile genuine and warm. "Better than expected," Victoria replied, adjusting James so he was visible on camera. "How's the new office?" "Incredible. We're hiring our 10th employee next week." Jasmine's eyes shone with excitement. "The retail partnerships you arranged are exceeding all projections. Neural Bridge is going to be profitable by Q2. The investment in Jasmine's company had been Victoria's first public deal after revealing VH Enterprises, and it had paid off spectacularly. Jasmine had proven to be exactly the kind of entrepreneur Victoria loved working with, brilliant, driven, and utterly committed to building something meaningful. "Any regrets about how things went down?" Victoria asked. Jasmine's expression sobered slightly. "About Marcus? No. He taught me an important lesson about the difference between being used and being valued. You showed me what real partnership looks like." After ending the call, Victoria carried James to the window, looking out at the city that had always been her home, but now felt truly hers. Her phone buzzed with notifications, interview requests, speaking invitations, partnership, proposals. Since the tech summit, Victoria had become the face of women in venture capital, profiled in Fortune, Forbes, and Harvard Business Review. The irony wasn't lost on her. Marcus had spent years trying to become a recognized industry leader, while she'd achieved that status in a single afternoon by simply telling the truth. Thomas gathered his papers, preparing to leave. "What's next for VH Enterprises?" Victoria considered the question, watching pedestrians move through the park below. "We're launching an incubator program focused on women-led startups, and I'm considering a book deal. The Silent Partner. Building an Empire from the Shadows." "Catchy title," Thomas grinned. "Though I suppose you're not silent anymore." After Thomas left, Victoria settled into the rocking chair with James, opening her laptop to review the day's reports. VH Enterprises had grown by 30% since going public, with a waiting list of entrepreneurs seeking partnerships. She was building exactly the kind of company she'd always envisioned, one that valued substance over spectacle, results over relationships. Her doorbell chimed, and Victoria opened the security app on her phone to see David Romano standing in the lobby, holding what appeared to be a bottle of champagne and a gift bag. "Come on up," she said through the intercom. David arrived bearing celebration. Champagne for her, which she couldn't drink while nursing, sparkling cider for both of them, and a tiny VH Enterprises onesie for James. "How's the little CEO in training?" David asked, settling into the chair across from her. "Learning the family business," Victoria replied, adjusting James's blanket. "Speaking of which, I've been thinking about succession planning." David raised an eyebrow. "He's 3 weeks old." "It's never too early to plan ahead," Victoria said with a smile. "But seriously, I want to make sure VH Enterprises continues to support entrepreneurs who might otherwise be overlooked. Women, minorities, people without the right connections or family money. Like Jasmine. Like all of us, at one point or another." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over Manhattan. Victoria thought about the woman she'd been just months ago, hiding her brilliance, pretending to be less than she was, trapped in a marriage built on Marcus's assumptions about who she should be. Now James stirred in her arms, opening his dark eyes to look up at her with the unfocused wonder of the very young. Victoria smiled down at him, making a silent promise. He would grow up knowing that his mother was powerful, not because she'd married well, but because she'd built something extraordinary with her own hands and mind. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw you on CNN. Proud of you." Mom, Victoria's mother, who had always pushed her toward marriage and social prominence rather than career ambitions, had been watching from their family estate in the Hamptons. The message was simple, but it represented a shift in their relationship that felt as significant as everything else that had changed. Victoria typed back, "Thank you. Come meet your grandson when you're ready." The response came immediately. "Tomorrow, if that works. I want to hear about this empire you've been building." As night fell over the city, Victoria reflected on the strange journey that had brought her here. Marcus's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also been liberating, forcing her out of the shadows and into the spotlight she'd always deserved. James yawned and settled back into sleep, secure in his mother's arms. Outside, Manhattan glittered, with the dreams of millions of people building their own futures. Victoria was no longer hiding among them. She was leading them.